The girl nobody wanted. The market was loud. Voices shouted. Creatures bargained. Dirty smoke rose into the yellow sky. It was the slave district of Gorak 9, a lawless spaceport where lives were bought and sold like old machines. On a wooden platform stood a small alien girl. Her skin was light violet, covered in dust and bruises. Her clothes were torn rags. Her big golden eyes looked tired, almost empty. A thick metal collar wrapped around her neck with a number tag, X1 or 13. No one bid. She's weak, one trader shouted. No strength in her arms. Look at her legs, too thin, she's not even pretty. Who would want such garbage? The auctioneer tried to smile. Come now, someone must want this little one, just one credit. One credit for this creature. But the crowd just laughed. One alien spat near the girl's feet. Another threw a rotten fruit. Still, she didn't move. She had learned long ago not to cry. Far away in the crowd, a human stood silently. His name was Foreman. He wore a brown coat, a heavy pack on his back, and a small blaster at his belt. His eyes were cold but sharp. He watched the girl quietly. Then he stepped forward. I'll take her, Foreman said. The crowd went silent for a second. Then laughter exploded. You'll waste a credit on that thing, someone shouted. She won't last a day. Another alien jeered. Foreman ignored them. He pulled out a single credit chip and handed it to the auctioneer. I said I'll take her. The auctioneer shrugged. She's yours, human. No returns. The girl looked up at Foreman. Her lips moved slightly, but no sound came out. She expected chains again. A kick. Maybe worse. But instead, Foreman bent down and unlocked the collar from her neck. He threw it away. You're free now, he said. The girl stared at him. Her legs trembled. She collapsed to her knees. Foreman didn't yell or hit her. He simply reached out his hand. I'm not going to hurt you, can you walk? She nodded slowly. What's your name? He asked. She looked down, whispered something. He leaned closer. Say it again. Kiri, she said so quietly it was almost like a breath. Foreman gave a small nod. All right, Kiri. Let's get you out of here. They walked through the dirty market. No one stopped. Them. No one cared. Just another strange human with a broken toy. Some aliens stared. Others laughed. But Foreman walked straight, his pace steady, never looking back. Kiri limped beside him, her tiny feet bloody and bare. She didn't speak. She kept her eyes low. She waited for the moment he would change. When he would hit her. Sell her again or worse. But that moment never came. They reached a small, worn-down starship in Dock 12. Foreman opened the ramp. Come inside, he said. Kiri hesitated, but followed. Inside was warm. Not fancy, but clean. There was a soft light and a small kitchen unit. A seat with old blankets. A small cot in the corner. Foreman brought out a wrapped food pack. He opened it and placed it on the table. Eat. Kiri stared at the food. Her hands shook. Foreman waited. Finally, she sat and picked up the food with her hands. She ate fast. Too fast. She didn't chew much, just swallowed, afraid someone would take it away. It was the first real meal she'd had in days, maybe weeks. Foreman handed her water. She drank the whole cup. Then he did something strange. He took a blanket, walked over to the cot and laid it down. You can sleep there. No chains. No cage. Kiri didn't understand. Her eyes blinked in confusion. Why? She asked. Foreman looked at her for a long time. Then he said, because nobody should be treated like that, not even you. That night, as the ship floated, in orbit, Foreman sat in the pilot's chair, going through files on a screen. Behind him, Kiri curled up in the blanket, staring at the ceiling. She didn't sleep. Not yet. She kept asking herself the same question again and again. Why did he help me? What does he really want? And somewhere deep in her chest, a feeling grew. Not fear, but something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The The silent passenger foreman's ship flew through the edge of empty space. The stars outside were quiet, cold, and endless. But inside the ship, a storm was beginning. Kiri sat in a corner near the wall, knees to her chest, arms wrapped around them. She hadn't spoken since yesterday. She hadn't even asked where they were going. Foreman didn't push her. He just worked, checking the ship's systems, reviewing maps, cleaning parts, drinking old coffee. Every now and then he glanced at her. She didn't notice, or maybe she pretended not to, but something strange happened that morning. Foreman opened a small locker. Inside were folded clothes, basic, human-style clothes. He threw a set her way. "You're not property anymore. Wear what you like, E." Touched the fabric slowly. Soft, clean. She looked at him, confused. No chains, no tags, just clothes. Kiri didn't understand. No one had ever given her something without expecting something back, but she stood up, turned away, and changed. The clothes were too big but warm. Foreman didn't say a word, but something about the way he nodded told her. He approved. Hours passed. Kiri didn't speak. Foreman finally broke the silence. "You ever been off Gorik 9? She shook her head. "Good," he muttered. "That place is poison." Kiri blinked. Where are we going?" "Somewhere quiet," he said. "You need rest. Real rest. You look like you've never had any." She looked down. "I don't remember what rest feels like." Foreman leaned back in his chair. "Then it's about time you learned." The next day, Kiri wandered around the ship. Slowly, carefully, like a wild creature sniffing around a new cage. She found a book. Not digital, a real one made of paper. It sat on a shelf next to a cup of broken pens and a small plant with one yellow leaf. The book was about stars, with pictures. She sat and stared at a page with a red nebula. Foreman passed by and paused. "You like it?" he asked. She nodded. "Keep it," he said. She didn't move. "But it's yours." He looked at her. "Now it's yours." Something inside her trembled again. Why? Why did he keep giving? That night she had a nightmare. She cried in her sleep, whispered something in her language, broken words full of fear. She thrashed in the cot, her hands grabbing at the air like she was chained again. Foreman rushed in. "Hey, wake up!" She screamed and backed into the wall. "It's okay," he said, hands up. "You're safe. You're on my ship. No one's going to hurt you." She shook violently. Tears ran down her face. He didn't touch her. He just sat on the floor, a few feet away. "Sometimes I get bad dreams too," he said, quietly. "War stuff. Friends I lost. People I couldn't save." She sniffled. "I don't remember all of it. Just pain, darkness, being sold. Again and again." Foreman nodded slowly. "I believe you." The next morning, something shifted. Kiri walked into the control room and sat in the co-pilot's seat. She said nothing, but she sat beside him like it was normal. Foreman looked at her and handed her a small fruit. She took it. A quiet peace hung in the air for a while. Then, without warning, the ship beeped. Red lights flashed. "Incoming transmission." Foreman tapped the screen. An alien face appeared. Rough skin, cold yellow eyes. A bounty hunter. "I heard you bought something at Gorik 9, the voice said. Foreman stayed calm. "Not your business." The hunter smiled. "It is now. There's a price on that girl's head, 10,000 credits. Dead or alive." Kiri froze. Foreman didn't flinch. "Tell whoever wants her that they can go to hell." The alien snarled. "You'll regret protecting her." The screen turned black. Foreman stood, checked his weapon. Kiri looked at him with wide eyes. "Why would they offer that much for me?" He stared at her. "Good question," he said. "What are you, Kiri?" She whispered. "I don't know, but..." Deep inside, for the first time, she wanted to find out. And Foreman? He had just made the choice to fight an entire galaxy. For the girl, nobody wanted. The royal seal beneath her skin, Kiri sat on the floor of Foreman's ship, legs crossed, eyes closed. She wasn't sleeping. She was trying to remember. Every time she closed her eyes, pieces came back. Not full memories, just flashes. A bright, a woman's voice calling her name, the smell of burning metal, and screams, always screams. But today there was something new. A word. A name. Kiriel. She opened her eyes fast. She had never said that word before, but it came from inside her. Kiriel. Was it hers? Foreman was in the engine room, fixing a leak. He didn't hear her whisper the name again and again, trying to see if it felt real. Finally, she walked to the ship's medbay. Her hand touched her back where the scars were. She had seen them in the mirror before. Strange lines. Too straight to be from pain. Too perfect. She found the medical scanner and turned it on. Scan. Body, she said slowly. The machine. Word. A blue light passed over her, then a soft beep. Words appeared. Genetic pattern, royal bloodline, Varelli class, code, HS Kiriel. She blinked. Royal? What? What is that? She didn't understand it all, but her name was there, her real name, hidden in her blood. She touched the screen like it might disappear. I'm someone? Foreman returned to the cockpit later and found her sitting there with the scanner. She didn't speak, just showed him the results. He stared. What is this? He muttered. Kiri looked scared. I think I was important a long time ago. Foreman took a breath. Varelli. That's not just any name, that's old. That was an empire. She looked down. I don't remember being a queen or a princess. I only remember being sold. Again and again. Foreman shook his head. Maybe someone didn't want you to remember. Later that night, Foreman brought out an old box from under his bed. Inside were files from past missions, wars, rebel stories, lost civilizations. He pulled out one file. The fall of Varelli Dominion. 200 years ago, he said, the Varelli royal family was overthrown. All of them were believed dead. But your scan, your blood says you are one of them. Kiri said nothing. She just looked at the glowing scars on her back in the mirror. They were starting to shine. Soft white blue light, moving like liquid. Why now? She asked. Foreman answered. Maybe being free is what woke it up. The next morning, strange things began to happen. As Kiri walked through the ship, the lights turned on before she touched them. The door opened before she reached it, and when she touched the navigation panel, it flashed, showing stars and maps she had never seen, but somehow understood. I know this route, she whispered. It goes to Varelli Prime. Foreman stood behind her, shocked. That planet was wiped out. No, she said. It's hidden. My people. We locked it away. He stared. How do you know that? I don't know how. I just do. Then came the transmission. An unknown signal. No ID. Only one sentence. The High Star lives. Terminate before she awakens fully. Foreman's face went cold. They know. Who? Kiri asked. The ones who destroyed your empire. The ones who buried your past. Kiri looked at him, afraid. They'll come for me. He nodded. Yes, but I won't let them have you. Later, that night, Kiri sat in her small cot, looking at her hands. They were glowing again, faint but real. She could feel something inside her changing, a power she didn't ask for, a memory trying to rise. She whispered her real name. Kiriel. It didn't feel strange anymore. It felt like home. And then a final flash came, strong and painful. She saw herself, small and scared, in a golden cradle. A crown placed on her head. And then her mother's voice. If the stars ever guide you back, shine brighter than before. She opened her eyes. A tear ran down her cheek. Not from fear, but from finally remembering. She was never, nobody she was born to lead, and the stars were calling her back. The Queen. They tried to kill. Red alarm lights flashed inside Foreman's ship. The radar blinked, fast, steady, dangerous. 3 enemy ships had locked onto them. Foreman cursed under his breath. They're here. Too fast. Someone sold us out. Kiri stood beside him, gripping the back of the co-pilot's chair. Her eyes were wide. Who are they? Hunters, Foreman said. Not bounty hunters, assassins, silent kind. Royal cleanup crew. Kiri didn't understand. Cleanup? They're not here to capture you, Kiri. They're here to erase you. The enemy ships were sleek, black, and shaped like knives. No symbols, no light, only cold death. They didn't send warnings. They opened fire. Foreman grabbed the controls. His hands moved fast, switching buttons, flipping shields on. The ship shook. Explosions hit the back. We can't outrun them, he shouted. They're too fast. I can help, Kiri said, stepping forward. You don't know how to fly? No, she said, voice calm. But I can feel them. She placed her hand on the control panel. The lights flickered. The ship hummed louder than before. The console glowed under her touch. Stars shifted on the screen, forming a path. What is this? Foreman asked. I don't know, she said, her eyes glowing silver. But it's inside me. It's Varelli tech, hidden in my blood. The ship is listening to me. She pressed her fingers against the panel. Hold on. The ship jumped. Not just in speed, but space itself folded around them. 1 second, they were surrounded. The next, they vanished. Silence. The ship floated in, a dark region, no stars, no signals. Foreman gasped. How did you do that? Kiri fell to her knees, breathing hard. I don't know, it hurt, but it worked. Foreman helped her up. That was a phase blink. Lost tech, impossible. Only ancient Varelli ships could do that. Then maybe I'm not the only one waking up, she whispered. They floated in the void, hiding in the silence. Foreman checked the scans. We bought time, not much. Why? Do they want me dead so badly? She asked. He sat beside her. Because if you live, the Varelli bloodline lives. And if you remember who you are, you could claim the throne again. But there is no throne, she said. There's still people out there who remember, he replied. People who suffered after your empire fell. People waiting for a light. Kiri's voice cracked. I'm not a light. I'm just a girl who was thrown away. Foreman looked straight at her. You're more than that. They wouldn't try so hard to kill you if you weren't a threat. Just then something strange happened. Kiri touched her arm. Her skin glowed again, but this time patterns appeared. Moving patterns. A map burned into her flesh, in glowing white lines. She gasped. Foreman leaned closer. What is that? I don't know, she said. It feels like a message, or a lock, he added. And your body is the key. They followed the glowing map. It led to a set of broken coordinates, deep in uncharted space. There was no record of this place. Only Kiri's body remembered it. They reached a dark moon orbiting a dying star. No lights. No life. Just stone. But when the ship got close, the rock below started glowing. A soft blue light formed a circle, a landing pad. The moon had recognized her. They landed. The air outside was cold and dry. Kiri walked slowly, her bare feet touching the dust. Each step she took, the ground responded, glowing softly beneath her. Foreman followed, blaster ready. At the center of the moon, a massive door rose from the ground. Stone, sealed, covered in ancient symbols. Kiri walked up to. The symbols on the door matched the ones on her arms. Without thinking, she placed her hand on the center. The door opened. Inside was a chamber, silent, empty. Then, Light. A floating orb rose from the ground and hovered in front of her. "High Star Kiriel," a voice echoed. "You have returned." Kiri froze. "What is this place?" "The last beacon of the Virelli, your memory vault, your legacy, hidden until the galaxy needed you again." Tears rolled down her cheeks. She wasn't just some girl. She was their last hope. Behind her, Foreman stood still. He had seen many strange things in the galaxy, but never a forgotten queen awakening an ancient world. And in that moment, as light surrounded her, he knew Kiri was no longer the girl nobody wanted. She was the queen they had tried to kill, and failed. The beacon has been lit. The chamber glowed with pale blue light. Kiri stood in the center, the floating orb spinning slowly above her hand. She didn't understand what it was, but it felt familiar, as if it had once been her guide. Her teacher. Foreman watched from the edge of the stone room, tense but quiet. His blaster was still strapped to his side, but he hadn't moved. He didn't want to interrupt. Then the orb spoke again. "Your blood has unlocked the beacon. All hidden systems are now waking. Starguard protocols initiated." The entire chamber vibrated. Dust fell from the ceiling. Ancient lights flickered on across the walls. Virelli symbols flowed across the stone like rivers of light. "What is happening?" Foreman asked. Kiri's voice was soft. "I don't know, but I think something very old just opened its eyes." On the far wall, a hidden door slowly slid open with a deep stone groan. Inside, a circular room with floating devices, holograms, crystals, and memory stones suspended in the air. It felt like stepping into the past. Kiri entered alone. The orb followed, glowing brighter now. It floated in front of a crystal table and projected an image. A woman appeared. She looked like Kiri, only older, wiser, regal. "Kiriel," the voice said. "My daughter. If you are seeing this, then I have failed to protect you." Kiri's breath stopped. "Mother," she whispered. The projection continued. "You were just a child when the coup came. I gave the order to erase your memories, mark your blood with the keys, and scatter our ships into deep space. If the Dominion has fallen, then only you can light the beacon again. Only you can return what was lost." Tears rolled down Kiri's cheeks. "Do not be afraid of your power. You were born not just to rule, but to awaken what sleeps." Meanwhile, Foreman stepped outside the temple. He looked up. Dozens of silver. Streaks lit the sky. Drones, satellites, long-dead machines that were now powering back on. His visor beeped. Signal spike. Galactic-wide pulse. Somebody's gonna see this. He turned back toward the chamber. "Kiri, you just shouted your location to half the galaxy." She appeared in the doorway, her eyes still glowing faintly. "Good. Good? We're being hunted, remember?" Kiri didn't blink. "They've hunted me because I was weak. I'm not anymore." Far across space, ships picked up the pulse. Silent alarms rang in hidden places. On the cold bridge of a warship, a massive alien general stood up from his throne. "Virelli beacon. Online," he growled. A lower officer trembled. "Yes, Supreme Commander." "Impossible. She was dead." "No, sir," the officer whispered. "She's back." Back on the moon, Foreman watched as the beacon tower fully rose from the ground. Tall as a mountain, shining like a second sun. Kiri stood before it, alone. She wasn't the same girl he'd bought from a slave auction. She had straightened her back, lifted her chin, and spoke in a clear voice. "This beacon carries my name. I am Kiriel of the Virelli Dominion. I live, and I remember." The light pulsed. All across the galaxy, ancient Virelli tech began to react. Hidden vaults unlocked, silent ships turned on. Forgotten AI minds began to whisper, "She has returned." Inside the chamber, the orb dimmed. Foreman stepped beside her. "You sure you're ready for this?" She didn't look at him. Her eyes were fixed on the stars above. "No," she said softly, "but I don't think I was ever meant to stay small." Later that night, the stars above seemed brighter. Kiri stood at the edge of the cliff beside the beacon. Her royal blood had awakened something much bigger than herself. She could feel systems, messages, connections she couldn't before. The past was returning, but it wouldn't come alone. There would be war. There would be fear. There would be a reckoning. Foreman stood beside her, arms crossed. "You've got enemies. Now. Real ones." Kiri nodded. "Then I'll need real allies." He raised an eyebrow. "You asking me?" She turned to him and smiled, a real small but strong smile. "I never stopped, and far, far away, on a broken planet where former Varelli survivors hid in silence. A child stared at the sky. He tugged his mother's hand. "Look, Mama, the star, it's glowing again." The mother gasped and whispered words long forbidden. "Long live the high star." The ones who came to kill a star, the beacon moon, didn't sleep. Blue light poured from its tower into space. Silent machines deep under its crust began to hum again. Long dead satellites blinked to life. In every corner of the galaxy, hidden sensors picked up the pulse. The high star has awakened, but not everyone felt hope. Some felt fear, and others felt rage. Inside the control room of a warship painted in black steel, a massive being with blade-like arms stared at the signal on a holoscreen. "Varelli filth," he growled. He turned to the dark figures behind him, hunters dressed in armor that drank in light, faces hidden, voices silent. "Go to the beacon moon, burn it, and bring me her head." The hunters vanished. They didn't speak. They didn't miss. Back on the beacon moon, Foreman checked the sky every hour. Something felt wrong. "Kiri," he said, entering the chamber. "We've got movement." She stood in front of the floating orb, began studying star paths and weapon systems linked to the beacon. "How many?" "3 cruisers, one looks like a flagship. We've got maybe 2 hours, no support, no way to run." She didn't flinch. "Then we don't run." Foreman gave a dry laugh. "I miss the quiet version of you." Together they activated the moon's defense systems. Cannons hidden beneath stone slowly rose. Old AI voices crackled from the control panel. "Beacon defense online. Protocol, Royal Shield." Kiri walked to a glowing pad. "There's more. Deeper. Systems locked unless I open them myself." Foreman checked his blaster. "You'll need time." She nodded. "Buy it for me." He smirked. "Always do." The sky changed, dark clouds formed, but there was no weather on this moon. The clouds were ships, black as space, shaped like daggers. The Side lead ship opened. 5 hunters dropped from orbit like falling stars, fast, silent, deadly. They landed in a circle around the beacon. No words. No warning, just weapons drawn. Foreman stood on the ramp of their ship, shotgun ready. "You picked the wrong moon," he muttered. The first hunter charged, faster than anything he had seen. Foreman fired. Boom. The hunter's shield broke, but it didn't fall. Foreman rolled, shot again, and ducked behind stone. Another hunter vanished in smoke and reappeared behind him. Too fast. Foreman prepared for death, but a flash of white-blue light hit the hunter mid-air, throwing it backward. Kiri stood at the top of the beacon stairs, hand glowing. Her voice echoed, not loud but deep. "You cannot kill what the stars protect." The hunters turned toward her. Kiri walked down slowly, every step causing the stone to light up. Symbols appeared around her body, floating, spinning, glowing like a second skin. The lead hunter fired. The blast stopped inches from her chest, held, in place by a crackling field of energy. She raised her hand. The blast flew back 10 times stronger. Boom. The hunter shattered into sparks and armor. Inside her, something had fully awakened. She saw memories not her own. Battles of Varelli warriors. Starships commanded with a thought, galaxies bending to her mother's voice. Now, it was her voice. She lifted both arms. Energy formed behind her, shaping into wings of light. Not real wings, but a symbol, a message to everyone watching. I am not just a girl. I am the daughter of an empire. You sold me for nothing. Now I rise for everything. The last two hunters charged together. Foreman stepped forward to shield her, but Kiri stopped him. Let me. She touched the ground. The beacon answered. A pulse of energy shot outward. The hunters froze in place, held in a gravity lock. Kiri walked between them. Her hand touched each chest. A soft light entered their armor and shut them down from the inside. They dropped, lifeless. Silence returned. Only the beacon hummed. Foreman stared. Kiri. She turned to him. Her eyes weren't just glowing now. They were burning. Later that night, after burying the fallen attackers, Kiri sat beside the beacon. Foreman joined her, tired but alive. You just destroyed elite assassins with your mind, he said. You know that, right? She smiled slightly. I didn't destroy, I defended. He looked at her. You're not the same girl I bought for 1 credit. Kiri looked at the stars. No, she said softly. She died in that market. This is who I was meant to be. Far away, the warlord who sent the assassins got the report. His hand crushed the data chip. So be it, he growled. Now, I bring the army. The beacon moon was safe. For now. But the galaxy was stirring, and the star they once tried to erase was now shining too bright to ignore. The girl who lit the stars again. The beacon moon was no longer silent. Its tower shone like a star. Defense systems were repaired. Old machines hummed again, waiting for orders from their true commander. And now, ships began to arrive, not as enemies, but as witnesses. Foreman stood at the edge of the landing platform watching the sky. More ships than he could count floated just above the surface. Old Varelli cruisers, civilian crafts, smuggler ships, even rebel fleets. Every one of them had received the same signal, broadcast from the beacon itself. The high star lives. Inside. The chamber. Kiri stood in front of the memory stone where her mother's final message had played. She now wore a long robe made from the silken banners stored in the vault. They had once belonged to queens, now wrapped around her shoulders. Her glowing scars had grown brighter, now permanent trails of royal light across her skin. She was no longer hiding. The orb floated above her again, now pulsing in time with her heartbeat. Are you ready, High Star? The orb asked. No, she said honestly. But I'll speak anyway. Outside, Foreman tapped the broadcast control. All channels open. Screens and holograms lit up all across the galaxy. Every planet, station, outpost. And then Kiri spoke. I was sold for 1 credit. No one wanted me. Not because I was weak, but because I was dangerous to the wrong people. I was chained, beaten, hidden, and forgotten, but I was never truly gone. My name is Kiriel Varelli. I carry the blood of stars, but I walk like you. I have felt hunger, pain, loneliness. I have cried in the dark, wondering if anyone would ever see me. One human did. He bought me, but he never owned me. He saved me, but never controlled me. He gave me freedom when I didn't even know I could want it. Today I do not ask for a throne, I do not ask to rule. I ask for memory. Remember who we were before the empires fell. Remember that a voice can rise from the dust. I was nothing. Now I am the beacon. And if you are broken, if you are forgotten, then you belong at my side. The broadcast ended. Not with music, not with banners, just silence. But in that silence, across the galaxy, people began to stand. In slave markets, chained workers whispered her name. In broken homes on fringe worlds, children looked up at the glowing star in the sky that was not a star, but her beacon. In deep bunkers where the last rebels hid, a man raised his hand and said, Kyria lives. The Virelli flame is back. But peace would not come so easily. The enemy arrived. A fleet of black warships filled the skies around the beacon moon, bigger than anything Foreman had ever seen. They blocked out the stars. At their center, the warlord's flagship. He had no name, only a title. The Eraser. He came from the shadows, a butcher of empires, the one who had killed Kiri's family long ago. He thought he had killed her too. Now he returned to finish the job. On the ground, Foreman loaded weapons with a small group of defenders, ex-smugglers, Virelli AI drones, and Kiri. She stood among them, no guards, no army of her own, just belief. Foreman looked at her. This might be our last stand. Kiri smiled. Then let's make it shine. The sky turned red as the Eraser's forces landed. Hundreds of armored warriors marched forward. Foreman fired first. Blasters lit up the battlefield. Smoke filled the air. Explosions shook the ground. The beacon tower remained untouched, glowing like a lighthouse in chaos. Kiri moved through the battlefield, not like a soldier, but like a star in motion. Every time she was attacked, her energy shield blocked the strike. Every time one of her people fell, she lifted them back up with light. Then, the Eraser arrived. He stepped from his drop pod, towering, metal-skinned, eyes red like fire. "You should have stayed forgotten," he said. Kiri walked toward him. "I didn't return to fight you," she said. "You will," he growled, raising his weapon. Their battle shook the moon. He swung with a gravity hammer. She blocked it with a wall of light. He fired missiles. She turned them to harmless dust. But he was stronger, faster, designed for destruction. She began to tire. He struck her across the chest and she fell hard, sliding across the ground. Foreman shouted, rushing forward. But Kiri held up her hand. "Stay back." Blood on her lip, pain in her bones, but her eyes burned brighter than ever. She stood again and whispered the words written deep in her memory. "Let the blood of stars shine now." The beacon answered. The tower pulsed once. Then beams of light shot into the sky and across the galaxy. Ships powered by old Virelli tech lit up. Ancient defense codes unlocked, and most of all, hope spread like fire. The Eraser raised his hammer again, but it stopped midair. He looked down. Light poured out of his chest. Kiri hadn't touched him. She had awakened something inside him. His old memories, once erased. He had been a Virelli, night long ago. Twisted, reprogrammed, turned into a weapon. Now. He remembered. He dropped the hammer. He fell to his knees, and he wept. The battle ended in silence. No final blast, no great roar. Just a kneeling enemy and a girl with light in her hands. Foreman walked up to her slowly. "Is it over?" he asked. Kiri looked at the beacon. "No," she said, "but it's begun." Weeks passed. The beacon moon became a haven. Lost peoples came in ships of every shape and size. The forgotten, the rejected, the exiled. And Kiri stood with them, not above them, but among them. She didn't rebuild the empire. She built something new, a place where worth wasn't written in bloodlines, but in courage, where a slave girl could become a queen, not by title, but by truth. One night, Kiri sat beside Foreman on the tower steps, staring at the stars. He nudged her shoulder. "So, what now?" She smiled. "Now we write a story that no one will erase." He held up a small silver coin. The one he had used to buy her. "1 credit," he said. She took it, held it in her palm. "And worth every star."